Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele the Mime and June Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, it's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. We'll have a ball, with June, who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause.
Welcome to the award-winning Laugh Support Podcast. I'm your host, June Colson, here with my best friend, Michele, Trisha's sister, Rhonda Corey's friend. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your sound effects.
I was just making all these sound effects because you're announcing all this stuff.
That's how you know you're a celebrity, when you make your own sound effects. Pew, pew, brrr, wah, Michele with one L. Here's my face again. Van Dusen. Oh, yeah. I love that face. I love that face, Michele. Thank you. Ah! Yeah. I mean, it never gets old to you, does it? It does. So those of you listening, Michele continues to pop up the crazy-eyed expression that I had on the Huckabee show, the still shot that the professional camera got in just high def of my big fat bobblehead looking like a psycho. So thanks for rounding. Oh, there she is. Okay, we're rounding out this episode or this season of Laugh Support. So why not just go out with a bang? You know what I'm saying? We'll just go out with a bang.
Well, we have to, because like yesterday was such a hard day. We were trying to record this episode.
Yes.
And I had nothing but technical difficulties the whole time. And so we just scratched this episode. But because we had a guest coming on, we couldn't, the show had to go on. We couldn't just stop because you couldn't see me and I was frozen.
Oh my goodness. And that's the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see. So we were trying to record with our amazing friend Marlo Rutz, which was a bonus episode this season. We thought that Coy was going to be our last guest. And he was a phenomenal guest, so much fun. And then kind of last minute, we found out that Marlo's schedule had opened up enough for her to be able to come on and be with us. But what had happened was we were going to record this episode and then record with Marlo. And I couldn't get my phone on Do Not Disturb. My son was texting me about a pair of golf shoes. My other son was texting me and wearing me out about a piece of paper that he needed for a job interview that he was about to go on, which was extremely important. And Michelle's computer kept cutting out. And finally it was like, forget it. We can't. That's the only time we've ever had to full on abort the mission, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. It was just like, we're done for the day. And then I was like, oh wait, no, we still have another guest. So yeah, it was very unnerving to not have the technical stuff behind us to help to work. It was I'm just glad I got the intro out yesterday for Marlo.
Yes.
and
me too.
And the recording started. Like, I'm glad that I was able to do those few things. And then it was basically an interview between you and Marlo. That's really what it came down to.
Well, but Michele, was it just an interview between me and Marlo? Ah, there's my face. No, because you are the most creative and just hilarious person ever. So Michelle's video kept freezing and her audio wasn't quite working right. So basically she added to her list of amazing skill sets the ability to be a mime. Michele just would pop in and mime every once in a while. And you were able to just type in comments and still try to lead the interview from behind the scenes by popping up things like Nemo and what was the acronym? Oh, I just went blank.
Wake Up.
Wake Up, the acronym Wake Up. So Michele was prompting Marlo from behind the scenes, imposter syndrome. Yes, all of those things. Michele was randomly popping up to even if she couldn't be on the show, she was going to definitely be a part of this show. But that's just brilliant. That is part of what it's like to be on this platform. That's part of what it's like to be, just in the hands of technology. And
Yeah.
oh, there it is. So squirrels may lose 25% of their buried food to thieves. Thanks for sharing that fact real quick, Michele. That was one of the fun facts that Michele shared with us this season. And yes, and I got to do the little Michele and the Messiah want to take you higher. Yeah.
Yep,
I got to
yeah.
close it out for you since you were unable to use your words. Then I was
man.
able to close it out the way I tried all first season to get you to close out. So yeah, but today, since you weren't able to talk with us yesterday, today we are going to talk a lot about your recent experience getting to open for who, Michele Van Dusen?
Let's see. What was that guy's name? This guy, Jeff Ellen. What?
Yeah, look at you. What a great picture too. Look at so you're in front of the Looney Bin sign. Now,
Yeah.
Michele, you opened for Jeff not once, but twice in Oklahoma, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We did the Looney Bin in Tulsa, and then Bricktown Comedy Club in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And I
So let's talk
didn't
about
get a picture. I didn't get a picture there. I don't know why. It just escaped my brain.
at the Bricktown. Well, I'm glad you at least got one at Looney Bin. So that's super cool. I've been able to talk to Jeff since since you were on with him, and he definitely had a great time with you. And I shared with him how much fun that you had. And okay, so this podcast, we've talked about how important it is to make connections and to reach out to different people. And so let's talk about how that little seed was planted this season and how we got to see it come to life in those two performances.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because we interviewed Jeff back in March or May. It was one of the M months, and on the podcast, he said that because he was talking about how you opened for him, and he shared a bunch of. It was a really good podcast. You should go back and listen to that episode. And during that episode, he said, "Well, Michele, when I'm in Oklahoma, you could open for me." And I was like, "Wait, what? Everyone hearing that? Are all our listeners hearing that right now?" So I saw his schedule, and I saw he was going to be in Oklahoma. So I went ahead and I reached out, and his manager said that or his agent, whatever he is, I don't know. He said that I had to then contact the comedy clubs and then let them know that Jeff asked if I would open for him. So it was a lot of work behind the scenes I didn't expect. I just thought I'd just show up, So I had to do work, June.
Yeah.
I had to do work.
Yeah. Are you okay? So how long did it take you to recover from making a few phone calls?
I am still in the process. And
Yes.
So I'm not
I heard you sprained your thumb when you were texting and all that.
Yeah,
It's difficult to sign.
tough.
Well, yeah. I mean, really though, for me, when I opened for him, it was just a matter of he reached out, said, I have this gig. This is where I'm going to be at. And I just went. I didn't have to reach out to anybody because it was a different vibe. It was a theater show. And so it wasn't a comedy club. And, he had just told the person that booked him, hey, this girl's coming with me. And that was that. There wasn't any of that to go through. But yeah, so you did these two different clubs. So let's talk about the first one. How much time did you get to do at the first club?
Okay, so the first club, it was only supposed to be a 10-minute thing with and then the intro of him and things like that. And so so this is just one section of the room. It was packed. The Looney Bin packed it out.
So what we're looking at, Michelle showing us for our listeners, Michele, she's showing us a picture of the comedy club, the what people are used to seeing, the brick wall. So many comedy clubs, the background is the brick wall with the Looney Bin logo. And yeah, you can see that the room was full. They were ready for him.
Yeah. And what was really cool was unbeknownst to me, my son and his girlfriend decided to show up and come to the show. So
Nice.
yeah, that was really exciting. So this is my youngest son. I'm showing a picture right now of Haley and Jeff and my son Anthony and then myself. Um, this was his first time ever hearing me do comedy.
Your son?
And yes, yeah.
What?
Yeah, Anthony was when I was doing the after school comedy club for kids at Disney Elementary. Anthony was part of that group because it was a new process for the students to, they didn't know when to laugh, like because kindergartners, like K through second grade, they don't understand comedy. And
Yeah.
so Anthony was my rim shot kid.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so we would tell a joke, we would tell the beginning, then the end, and then we hit the rim shot, and that's when the kids would laugh. So the kindergartners and the preschoolers, they'd wait till they heard the rim shot, and once they hear they go ah ha, ha, ha. So yeah. Now the knock knock jokes the kids got right away because they were
Right.
able to respond and go with that. But yeah. So
Oh my
Anthony,
gosh. I visited an elementary school this week and
yeah.
stopped at one of my friends to teach her, classroom or whatever. These are first graders that she teaches. And when I went in, she was like, "Friends, you're in the midst of a famous comedian. Miss June, tell him a joke." And I'm like, I don't do. And I could only think of I used to have a ton of like little kid knock knock jokes and stuff like. The only thing I could think of was the knock knock who's there boo, and some kid goes, "I already know the punchline," and I was like, "Oh, I got a heckler in the first grade classroom." So,
All
like,
right.
I
Well,
should have been more prepared.
you know what I've just started doing, and I'm going to start doing this at all my shows. I'm going to end with a couple of jokes for kids because I want to take those clips and then post them. And so
Mm.
I'm going to post them, like joke time with Miss Michelle or something. And so
Yeah.
I did post my first one on YouTube the other day. So it's got like
Did you
3
see where
views.
Jeff, speaking of Jeff Allen, he has one that he posted recently where his granddaughter had told him a joke. And he gave his phone to somebody in the front row and had them videotape him doing that joke just for his granddaughter.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
then
guess
he posted
that
and shared that. Yeah.
that
I think
happened
it may have
here.
been there. Yeah.
It happened here. See that
Mm.
okay, so we're showing a picture. The guy at the very front with the glasses,
Yes.
over to the right, I think is his wife was the one. It was either him or his wife did that video.
Yeah, that was super cute.
Yeah.
That was just fun. And he just did a joke and when you're at the level that Jeff is, you can hand somebody your phone during your set and make them record you doing one joke for your granddaughter. I don't know that I can get away with that. First of all, I don't have any granddaughters, but yeah,
do.
that was really awesome. Okay, so
Yeah,
you,
so my son showed up, him and his girlfriend.
yes.
So this is the first time that he's ever heard me do comedy. And so after the show, he came up, he goes, "That was really funny. What was that one joke that made me laugh out loud?" I'm like, "I don't know." So then he made me go through my whole set again. He was like, "Yeah, that one right there. I laughed out loud
Was
for
he
that
not
one."
doing the rim shots for you? Was he not?
No. No.
That would have been great.
So it was really fun that they showed up and it was his first time seeing me and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be back." Now his girlfriend Haley, she's come to like the last 4 or 5 shows that I've done and she's brought her mom and her sister with. So like she knew my material. So it was fun for her to watch, her boyfriend laugh at his mom. So it was really cool.
Okay, so first of all, with my attention deficit, I'm really struggling with the heart that says love above your head because it's
Oh,
shaped like a question mark, and your face is the circle at the bottom of the question mark. So I just have to let you know if I lose train of thought, you just look like a question mark to me. So there's that.
I guess that I'll have to move those. So the top one is love and then the bottom one is hope.
Yes. Yes, so
now
you're a question mark to me. So I'm
uh,
struggling.
let's see.
So let's dive
There
into
we go.
let's dive into your son and his girlfriend's relationship because they love for us to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. But now that you've shown a picture of her on your podcast and we've talked about her, how
Yeah.
long have they been dating? Like, you don't have to know the specific date. It's not your anniversary, but has it been a long time, a little time?
I want to say 2 years, 2 weeks
Okay.
ago. But
Okay, so
don't quote me
she's
on
been
that.
around for a little bit.
Yes.
Mama Michele is not new, and you did good because she didn't dump him, right? After the show or anything?
Yeah. No, they're still together. And I love Haley. I'm just gonna put it out there because like she gives amazing gifts. Like
Mm.
I was under the weather, I don't know, it was like a year and a half ago or whatever, and she brought over a crate, and in the crate there was soup, there was hulls, there
Oh, I
was a
remember that.
blanket. Yeah, I'm like, "Who does this?"
Yeah.
And like a little candle. Like I was blown away. I'm like, "Wow." Obviously her gift is gift giving because it was amazing. So and I'm like, here's a card. Thank you. Like, I'm
Yes.
horrible at that. She's amazing and she's still here. So,
Yeah.
I
My
love you, Haley.
oldest son, he's been dating a girl for over 2 years, and, yeah, I don't think that either one of them will ever show up at one of my shows, which is okay because I feel like there's some material I wanna do that maybe they shouldn't be there for, you know what I'm
There
saying?
you go. There you go.
'Cause they provide a lot. They provide a lot of humor. That's so cool, though. It really is special to, when my son Trey, both of my boys really have only seen me do comedy one time, and then Trey went with me to the Huckabee show. And I know that it's weird for them. I think there it is, the Huckabee show face. And that's exactly what my son looked like watching me. It was just a deer in the headlights. No, he came and it was really special. I will always remember looking out in the audience and seeing him sitting, in the audience and smiling, and whether he was faking the laugh because I threatened his life or not, I really enjoyed him being there. It meant a lot to
I
me
think
that he
I think
came.
that's your response. Like, oh, he laughed.
Yes.
No,
It's like, oh, that's my son. He's smiling at me. So your son and his girlfriend Haley, they came to the first show.
yes.
Did a shorter amount of time in the first show. How did that
Mhm.
set go?
Oh, that set was amazing. It was a lot of fun. It was great to be back on that stage. It's been a couple of years since I've been on the Looney Bin stage, and because they painted the wall, that's how I knew it's been a while. And it was tight. It was good.
Hmm.
And the laughter was good. There was somebody yelled out at the very beginning, Michelle, and I was like, "Oh, I can't have them be doing that for when Jeff is out and stuff." And so I was like, "Thank you, but did you not just hear the announcements how if the community needs your help, they'll ask you for it or whatever?" Like
Oh,
I had to like squelch that, and then I just felt awful about that because I was like, because I don't know who it was. It was not my son or his girlfriend. I asked, and um, my doctor came and brought her daughter and some friends
what kind of
and
doctor, Michelle? Can I ask?
uh, not my therapist, if that's what you're wondering. Um,
They're like, the therapist came just to see if they're having any effect at all.
yeah,
Like,
I did not invite him. Um, I talk about that later. No, so she was my um OBGYN.
yes.
No. I don't, here's the deal. She was there when we had our first baby. She delivered, she was there for our first baby's
Oh,
delivery.
wow. So
So
she,
whatever that is. She's a family doctor. She's a family
yeah.
doctor. There we go. I got the words out finally. So and she's an amazing doctor. So she covers from birth to death. She does all
Yeah.
age range. And her practices are up in Owasso, uh, Oklahoma. If you guys are interested, it's Dr. Farrell. And yeah, so she was my doctor when I had my first kid. She's not my doctor now, but just now we're huge friends. So, and she
Yeah. That's
came.
so cool that she came. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, and I'm guessing that they enjoyed the show as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Her daughter was in seventh heaven, because she got to meet Jeff Allen
Yes.
and because for clubs you have to be a certain age to be there, but
Mhm.
because Allen's show is clean, I said, well, you should call the club and see if you can bring her because her daughter is starting into comedy, and so she's doing some writing, and her interests lie in the I saw her recently at Tim Hawkins' show, and
Oh, wow.
I got her Tim Hawkins photo for her and got them front row seats, and she was excited about that. So now she got to come inside the comedy club, and because they called ahead and said, well, Michele said it was clean. They're like, yeah, you can bring her. So she was
Wow.
so happy. And she said, you were funnier than Jeff. That's what her daughter said. Now
Yes.
let's back that up for a minute. I do material that doesn't go over her head.
Yes, exactly.
Jeff,
Yeah.
yeah, Jeff's material, I identify with Jeff's material, and I love Jeff, and I think he is hilarious. But for an 11-year-old, some of the stuff that he did, she thought was hilarious, and another part, she's like, I don't get it,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
fine. Yeah, it's fine that you don't get it because you shouldn't, because you're 11, But
Yes.
it was so good. It was so good that that they came, and I think that's kind of why I want to start adding at the end of my show, or at the end of my bits, the end of my section time, at least 2 jokes for just straight up for if there's any kids in the
Mm,
audience, kind of a thing. So I'm gonna start doing that.
yeah. I ran
Yeah.
into that with at Gutty's, Comedy Club in Greenwood, Indiana. You can bring kids to that show. And my cousin came and brought her daughter, Zoe, and Zoe was probably maybe 12, something 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And I was featuring for Robert G. Lee. Or actually I may have been opening that show that Zoe came to. But anyway, she thought myself and the other comedian was just so funny, and then you would see her laughing at Robert, but then you would see her kind of go away for a little bit, and then she would come back because his comedy is so smart, and
So good. Yeah.
none of us are kid comics, none of us are doing material for small children,
Yeah.
and so so that makes sense that that she could ride along with what you were saying. But yeah, Jeff he's got some really, really smart and
Oh, yes.
not political comedy, but it's very, world, like it's about the world and adult, situations and marriage and things like that a kid that age. But how cool is
Yeah.
it that
Yeah.
you got to be that celebrity that, I guarantee she'll never forget that first time getting to go into the comedy club and hanging out and watching you and knowing somebody on the stage. That's huge.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't even think about that because, like, when I was growing up, my parents would take us to Earl of Old Town, and it wasn't a comedy club, but it was music, and because it was in a bar setting with a stage, as the kids, we had to sit at the kids' table, which is behind the railing, so we're
Yes.
not connected to the bar, and we get our little Shirley Temples, and we sit back there and listen to Bonnie Coloc sing. And if you've never heard Bonnie Coloc, she's probably one of the best folk singers around.
Oh, wow.
The crispest and clearest voice ever. And because she was my mom's friend, we got to see her, at this tiny little thing. Then we got to see her on the bigger stages. We ended up going to New York to watch her on Broadway or off
Mm.
Broadway or whatever it was. So it's like all these little things. So yeah, she's definitely going to remember that moment. So now I think I have to get a show on Broadway now, I think. I don't know. I think, is that the next step? Maybe
I think,
Dry Bar? I don't know.
yeah,
Something like,
yeah,
to make the influence. I think
yeah,
so.
that's what you got to
Yeah.
do. That's what you
Hmm.
got to do. So you had a
Okay.
great set. The audience was awesome.
Yeah.
You had family and friends in the audience. You thought to take a picture with the amazing Jeff Allen. And he's so kind. He's just
He's
so
very
kind
gracious.
and friendly with the people that come. So so that's cool that they got to meet him and speak with him. So that was on what night of the week was that?
That was a Saturday night. It was Saturday afternoon. It was a 4:00 show.
I love
Because
that. I love, like, you were in bed on time. You could eat dinner at not 1
yep,
a.m.
yep,
Like it
yep.
was an afternoon show. But I mean, he knows who his audience is, and he knows when they'll come out. And
Yeah.
there's that. You had that show. So then the next show the next night?
Yeah. So then in Bricktown, it was Sunday evening, and it was a 7:00 show. So it was a little past my bedtime. Now that I'm a grandma, uh,
Yes.
we gotta
Yeah.
get to
Go
bed
ahead, Nana.
early. So it was 7:00 show. So I had another friend, and she brought some friends out there to see that show. The club was bigger, so it held more people, but
Mhm.
so it wasn't packed out, but it was still very full, which was really good. And this is going from a B club to an A club, and so like the green room um was amazing, and they had a little button that you could push and it would light up something, and then your person would come if you needed food or a drink or whatever. And I was like, what? So I'm like, when she came back through, I'm like, yeah, well, we do want to get such and such. And then I said, well, go ahead and just give the bill to my husband. And she's like, oh no, honey, it's covered. I'm like, what? I need to work here more. I was just I it was one of those things. So that was kinda cool, and, but then the whole idea as I was sitting there waiting, I was like, I didn't get any instructions as to what they want expected from the host, because the club, if you're hosting in a club, you're supposed to still announce, who's coming next, any kinda thing that they need. So I was like, "How do you want me to end this show?" So I ended up getting a card, and I couldn't, because the club is dark, so I'm like, I can't see this, and I had to go backstage to kind of look at it again, like, okay, this person's coming next, and I got to say these things and not mess it up. So I just brought the card on with me, you know at the end of it, so that was good.
So yeah, okay. So not only did you served as the opener and the host for the
Yes,
show, so you
yes.
got to, and I assume they had audio recorded of like keeping their phones put up and expectations of the club and those kind of things, or did you have to make those announcements?
They actually had, a pre-recorded, announcement kind of a thing, and then it's a very generic one, because they said, "Is there kinda music you wanna come up to?" I was like, like, "Okay, we'll just do the generic." I'm like, "Okay." So they had some announcements and things like that on there, and then they said, "And here's your host." Like, that's it. Like, there's no name, or
Right,
like, you
right.
just step up because it's a generic thing. And so you have to introduce yourself. And so, no, I didn't have to tell them no phones. I didn't have to do any of that. But I think you can if you go with your music going up on stage.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So did that change the flow? Now you had longer time on the second set. Yes.
Yes. So, um, Jeff's agent, he told me to have 20 minutes ready for both clubs. I'm like, okay. So, and then when I had to get a hold of the clubs, Looney Bin told me 10 minutes. So I knew, okay, I'm doing 10 minutes. And the other one still said 20. But then when I got there, then the guy said, okay, yeah, so you're doing 15. I'm like, oh, so
Oh,
now, yeah. So it's so hard for me to figure out how to edit something on the
yes,
fly like that.
yes, me too.
Because I was not a good editor on the fly, um, I know that I messed that up. Like, I know, and there's going to be a light, and the light for this club is up, which is it's supposed to be up above you, but then it actually shines onto the stage, and it's a red circle, so you could see it on the stage. If you're not standing in that spot. So if you're standing back just a half a step, you can see the red circle on the stage. But if you're standing in that spot, you can't see it. So that's how I knew. When I stepped back, I'm like, oh, I don't know how long that's been there. Like, that was
Oh
that kind
no.
of like, uh-oh.
Was that red
And I was
spot
like,
supposed to be, was the light for like you're done, or was that the wrap
mhm.
it up light?
Well, it was supposed to be the light that, hey, you have, a minute left or whatever. But because it was just on, I was like, oh, I've passed it. Like I knew that I passed it at that point. And I could tell, um, like, I learned some things. Like, because I was trying to edit, from 20 to 15, I didn't edit it correctly. And so I could tell by the laughter response, like the first 15 was really good. And then that last 5 was just kind of weird, because again, I should have just actually cut it, and I
Yeah,
didn't. And
yeah.
so, and but I ended with my, Mary Maid joke, which I love my Mary Maid joke, but it was a little wordy because I was still trying to edit, and I
Yes.
should have just done it and then be done,
Yeah.
and I didn't. So, ugh. And what's really hard is when so like Jeff, he wouldn't give me an intro. Like I had to come up with an intro for him. And it's
Oh yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know
that's
what?
what for me. He was like, "Ah, Junebug, you know me, we're friends. Just say something about us being friends." I was like, "Okay." So, I mean, really, and that's really all I said. They knew who he was. They were there to see him. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I just said, I know you guys are so excited to see the star of the show tonight. He is a dear friend of mine. He has been a mentor. He's one of the best, comics on planet Earth. Welcome, Jeff Allen. And then that was that. So.
Yeah. Well, he just finished wrapping up a movie. I think it's Seven Grandmas. So he wanted like some of those things mentioned. I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm like trying to take notes, but then I didn't bring my note with, and I was like, oh, where's my note? So I'm like, oh, it was like watching something happen in slow motion,
Mhm.
thinking it's like the worst crash ever kind of a thing happening, but it was more of like just a near miss.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so it wasn't like, "Oh, I killed." It was, "Okay, I did okay."
Yes.
Like, it wasn't I didn't die, I didn't bomb,
Yeah.
I did okay. So, it was just an interesting and weird feeling because it's in a club, it's not at a church event, it's just a different
Mhm.
the vibe is so different, and, yeah, editing at last minute is really hard for me, so I'm gonna have to have notes with me. If someone says, "Oh, I need you to cut it down," I need to have a
Yeah.
notepad, just not things word for word, but, just those prompt words, just set list. I have
Yeah.
to have that because yeah, being a grandma now, it's hard sometimes. But
Yes. I
anyway,
grandma.
but here's the deal. Jeff is a master of running a room.
Yeah.
I was able to watch him at both clubs and just watched him take everyone on this ride, and they're laughing hysterical, laughing, and then he gives them a break,
Yeah.
like, "Okay, let's kinda just chill out so you can breathe for a minute," and then he just kills them again, and it
Yes.
was amazing, and my set in Oklahoma City, I watched myself kill and then die and then tell a joke, so it's like,
Yes.
"Okay, I got some work to do, I got some work to do," but that's my perspective. You
Yeah.
know, and, I did ask him, afterwards as we were out in the parking lot, you know, very sheepishly, because I kinda knew where I messed up, where I missed it, uh, any notes? And he said the thing that every comic always says to every other comic. Yeah, you should keep editing, less words to say the same thing would be good. And he
Yes.
goes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He goes, "I told June this." I'm like, "Yes." So it was the same type of advice, just keep editing, keep doing it. It was good, like that kind of stuff. So it
Right.
was
Which
and
was more than, if you remember comedian Coy, it was more than, what Coy got from Tracy Morgan when he goes, "Just keep doing what you do.
yeah,
Just keep doing what you do." Like, well,
yeah.
no, at least Jeff gave you the just edit, just less wordy and and let
Yeah.
that be that.
And
So
this was the best thing that he said in the parking lot. And, I turned around to ask my husband if he heard, and my husband was already in the car. Jeff said, "Yeah, we'll have to do this again." I'm like, "Oh, that's another invite. That's another invite. Anyone listening?" I'm like, "No, no, my husband didn't hear it." So
yeah.
I'm like,
We got the first one on record. We got the first one recorded, and there was that. And no, that's
yeah,
awesome. I'm so glad that you had that experience. Anytime that you can open for someone, a headliner who is just that accomplished and talented and has so many years of experience, it's fun. Like I did a show this last weekend in Indiana, and when the headliner's on, I'm listening to them and kind of watching them, but I'm also watching the audience
yeah,
and watching them how they work the room and those kind of things, because I still, I have a long way to go. And like you, I asked them, I was like, so, how much time? And then, it was just some text messages back and forth. So then I finally was like, "Hey, looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Is there a specific, you know, um, whatever A, B, and C, like 3 quick questions, and then, how much time exactly would you like for me to do? And then I still got 15 or 20. And I'm like, I want to know, it's same way for the Huckabee show. They're like, it'll be between 5 and 7. Then when you get there, they go, okay, 6. And they were exactly right. It was between 5 and 7 minutes. But I like to know ahead of time, and I know that I can do it, but it is this, I like to feel more prepared. I like to be on the, and so when he said, when he told me 15 to 20 minutes, then I timed out at 18 minutes. I worked a set out that would be 18 minutes and, pacing a little bit for laughter or the lack of.
Yeah.
And then that way, if I got there and they were like, okay, you're only doing 15, I could cut off, or you're doing the full 20, then I knew I could like do that. But gosh, very beginning of comedy, that freaked me out more than anything. When it was, you just didn't know till you got there, or the person you're working with wouldn't tell you. And you're like, I don't know what to prepare for. I have this amount of jokes or, this thing that I'm going to do. But I'm so glad that you got to have that experience. I think this season of Laugh Support, we've been able to make so many amazing connections. We've had so many great interviews. Jeff being, one of the best interviews, so much fun to do. And man, I've been so honored and so blessed to be able to do this podcast with you for another season. We've learned so much. We have met so many people. And I love that, like, in our journey, the people I've brought in are people that you hadn't met before, and you've brought people in that I haven't met before. And so, yeah, I'm hoping and excited that season 3 will be coming. Yes.
What we're working on now is trying to figure out how to get a theme song or an intro and exit that's not 15 minutes long. That's what we're.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to work all during the break of just trying to have. I know, what is on your forehead?
Apparently, I got bit by a mosquito or something just sitting here.
Michele just has a knot showing up on her forehead. I did not touch her. Like, no one came in the room.
I'm gonna just do this. Like, how weird is that?
It was just a little dot, Michele, but now you've rubbed on it until you've made a big spot on your forehead. Stop it.
Let me do this side.
So yeah, I guess that's gonna be it for this episode. Unless you got something else.
Yeah. Because I don't know if I shared this, because the weekend before I opened and I hosted for Nicole Miller's special. And and so that one was also a 10-15 minute kind of a spot, which I was really excited about, being able to have a stage time, before. But the 3 shows, all 3 of them were so different because Nicole's was in a church, and I had to it was a different set. It was a different way of hosting. It was, like, hey, this is how we're going to laugh. Like, it was just a different venue and feeling to it.
Yeah.
So, like, because and the way people sat at her spot, so like you had a big pocket of laughers on one side, and then the other side of the room was super quiet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So then I ended up having to do some stuff to kind of get this other side up, because I wanted to make sure that it was full for her. And so it was really neat to go, from that environment, then to go to packed out room on a stage I've been on before. And, there's family and friends there, and a lot of comedians from the town showed up, to do that hosting and go, oh, okay. So, because the club gives you a paper ahead of time as to what they want you to make sure that you say for their club for that time. So that was, having those duties, but I didn't have that duty at the church event.
He said duty 2 times. Sorry, I'll never be mature enough to hear duty. Keep going.
No, but I did learn at all 3 shows. I walked away, I got in my car. I'm like, I forgot that joke. I can't believe you like that's the worst is like you've got a set and you're ready to go and you miss and you leave one of the best jokes, not there. It's
Yeah.
gone. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll make sure I do it at Jeff's. And then I missed it on the first one. I'm like, okay, I'll make sure I do it tomorrow. And again, I missed it.
Got it.
And it was like, oh, because I hired a personal trainer. I never fired them. I hired them for all 3 shows, never fired them. And
Never
that's like
fired
to me is one of the best parts of the joke.
Well, I'm not going to say any particular names. I will not because that's their business. But I was with a comedian after a very important recording, and that comedian forgot one of their favorite jokes. And I thought that security was going to have to be called because it was this moment where that comedian was so excited. You know what I'm saying? Just excited.
Yes,
Michele.
yes.
And again, I'm not going to say who it was, but what happened was it was a wicked awesome set. Okay.
Yeah.
And this comedian forgot one of her jokes. And she screamed so loud and like hit the wall and was like, oh, I forgot. And she has a wicked awesome voice, and it carried all the way down the hallway. I literally I thought security is going to be called because that's how where I'm the type who internalizes and I'm just going to and this particular wicked awesome comedian but she just let her feelings out is all I'm going to say. And there's no going back. There's no going back. There's nothing you can do about it. It just is what it is. And I felt the pain.
Like that's the worst thought process for a comedian when they get out and they go, oh, my best joke, and you don't tell it and you just got to shake it off and pick it up the next time. But the fact that I left out 3 times in a row.
Oh yeah.
That really that just got my goat. I'm like,
I had that happen in a competition and the funniest tag I forgot. And I was like, you can't go back.
I'm funnier than that. But let me can I fix my mistake? Yeah, you can't.
They don't want to do it, do they?
No, so I just realized because I'm looking, not only at my whatever's on my forehead, this spider bite thingy or mosquito. I'm also noticing my background looks really like what is happening here. I better explain it.
Oh yeah, explain to us because we actually talked about that yesterday when we had to stop the video. Right now, like from my perspective, looking at it, it looks like you have
just laundry,
but it looks like long john underwear or whatever. So like back in the day, it's really hard. Or a dress for a ghost or something.
Yeah. So this is a wedding dress that my sister sent me. Look, it looks like it was for a child. This is how tiny my grandmother was.
It's full on see-through, Michele. It's just a lace dress. Your grandmother wore that,
well. I'm sure there was other parts that she wore, but then the thing next to that is the thing that goes around your waist. Remember those wedding dresses that you could take off, so you could go and do other dancing, and not have to have the long train. So
my wedding gown was like that. My wedding gown had a train on the back of it, and it had little snaps, and you could just remove the train, and then it was like just a fitted dress. Yeah.
Yeah. So the waistband is like this satin, ivory satin, and and it fit around my wrist. That's how tiny my grandmother was.
Wow.
Yeah, tiny. So my sister sent me my grandmother's wedding dress, and then she decided to start throwing things in. So check this out. So my sister Trisha sent me this hummingbird.
And so we have a hummingbird that is like suspended over a flower as if it's getting the nectar from the flower. Back in the distance, when it's sitting there, the way that the wings are shaded, it actually looks like the wings are flapping in the distance. Like it looks like it's flying back there.
It's very, very beautiful. And I found out today the story behind that. Her neighbor just gave it to her. And then she thought, yeah, I don't need this anymore, and put it in the box.
So your sister's neighbor gave her a hummingbird statue, and then she went, "I'll give it to my sister."
Yeah,
And she just
no,
sent it to you. Do you get it? Yeah. Well, it's
yeah.
better than the dead baby that you've been said, like the ugly baby doll that looks like something off of a horror film. I'll
Oh,
take I'll take a hummingbird over that. But then also it's kind of ghostly the gown that she sent you. So I don't
yeah.
know. There's a
Well,
theme in your family.
she asked if I wanted my grandmother's wedding dress. I said yes, and so that's what was supposed to show up. And she held on to this box for months. And since it was an empty box, she's like, "Oh, there's more space, so I'll put in the hummingbird. Oh, I'll put in this ashtray." Um, so this this ashtray is a glass, very very heavy ashtray that used to be my mom's, and I'm
It's a
like,
beautiful ashtray. So you're smoking again? Is that
no,
what you're
no,
telling us? You're
no,
back to the Virginia Slims?
no,
Don't
look.
put your mother's ashes in the ashtray, Michelle. Don't put your mother's ashes in her ashtray. You cannot do that. Everything about that is wrong. For our listeners, Michelle just pulled out the baggie that has her mother's ashes in it, and she put her mother's ashes in her mother's ashtray. That's all kinds of wrong. But listen, no, I would definitely do that with hot dogs ashes. Yes.
Right.
If he was cremated, I would do that.
Well, and see, I'm just gonna point this out, June. This is just a small portion, the small bag, a little take-home
So now
bag.
you've divided your mother up. You've taken
No,
her apart and put her in different places now?
well, actually, she is. So I didn't do it. So when you, at the crematorium, right? Is that what it's called?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
crematorium.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they give it to everybody like separate little bags, but did you separate your bag into
Oh,
separate
no,
bags?
no. No, no,
Okay.
no, no. No, this and it's in a baggie in the bag because this particular little bag of her was um leaking. So, it's in a baggie so it doesn't spill anywhere. But
It was leaking. Your mother was leaking.
it had a hole in it. It was what is that called? Anyway, so
You have a leaky mother.
yeah,
You've
uh,
now put her ashes in the ashtray. I feel like
yeah.
this is our last episode where you and I are just talking to each other, and I'm glad that this is where the conversation went.
Well, all I'm saying is if um but I do, there are times though, so I this is a real event, a real thing. And I have talked about my mom on stage and her ashes and how I traveled with them. And I
Yes.
think that's why the bag tore a little was because, I took her onto 12 states on a pop-up comedy tour and it was a little much for her. And then I lost her and I didn't know where I left her. And so I found her and now she has a permanent spot in her ashtray. So thank you, Trisha, for sending it to me. So now I know ashes, ashtray. I won't lose her. So it's a good thing. Whew.
I don't, you know what? I'm just going to nod and go, yeah, Michelle, all of that made absolute perfect sense. And I do think that your therapist should come to your next comedy show. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's all
Well, hey,
I'm
listen,
saying.
okay, it's been an amazing season. We've had so many wonderful guests. We got to
Yes, we
wrap
did.
up with Michele the Mime, with Marlo Rutz, and we had a comedian Coy the last couple of episodes. And then now we are about to hit the grand finale.
Yes.
We have the man who started it all, which is completely awesome. So our grand finale guest, Michelle, our next episode, which will be the final episode of season 2 of Laugh Support. Who do we have coming on the next show?
We have Joel Byers. Woo, woo, woo.
Oh, she dabbed. Joel Byers is so famous for dabbing. Yes. So Joel Byers is going to join us on our next episode of the Laugh Support podcast. Joel is the creator of the Hot Breath Comedy Network. He was the inspiration and the one that reached out to us and got myself and Michelle to put together this fabulous podcast. And so we're honored to have Joel. He was our first person that we ever interviewed in our very first season, and he is the last person we're interviewing this season in season 2. It is our big grand finale with Joel Byers. So yeah, any closing thoughts or remarks, Michele Van Dusen, as we bounce out of here?
Yes, I do. I'm gonna pop up this picture real fast. You did a Talk is Cheap takeover.
Oh yeah.
the Rhonda Corey show. And I just want to say, and I want to ask you, like, how did it go? Like, give us a quick rundown real fast. How did this go with your game and all of that fun stuff? Because we haven't
All right.
talked
So
about that.
Michelle was showing a flyer from the Talk is Cheap takeover. You can go back and watch that on Rhonda Corey Comedy. Talk is Cheap is a talk show that she has that you can find on YouTube. And Rhonda was out of town. And so I got to sit in the host seat and host her show. It was 144th episode, I believe, of the show. So yeah, super cool. My cousin Mike came in, Lieutenant Michael James Anderson came and gave us tips on fire safety. Christy Conder, who we joke about being my comedy twin in Nashville. We played a game called Twinning is Winning. Michelle showing that picture of myself and Christy that we took at the Huckabee show acting foolish.
Who?
Yeah, who is who? So, and Fefe Frazier, comedian Fefe, was on the show, and we just had a great time. It was super fun. We had a little technical difficulty. I had done a video where I drove around town in that wig that I had on just a few minutes ago, and I pretended to be our amazing friend Rhonda Corey, and I almost got the law enforcement called on me. Mall security had an issue with me doing donuts in front of Dillard's in a wig. I'm not sure. Maybe if I wasn't wearing the wig, they would have let me do donuts. And I got honked at Starbucks, and but I had a great time, and it's so cool because Rhonda's show is fun. She was on our first season of Laugh Support. I think she was the second person that we interviewed after Joel Byers, maybe. But she was one of the very first people that we got to interview. Her show, Talk is Cheap, is awesome. Guys, definitely check that out. Rhonda Corey Comedy. And it was an honor that she trusted me with this show that really she's just done a great job with it. So yeah, thanks for asking about that. I had a great time.
Yeah, I make sure you mention that because it's a lot of fun. And I enjoyed watching it because and this is another reason why I actually enjoy doing the show with you. You are very, very good at interviewing people. Just incredible. And the way, because you picked out the guests, you picked out the game, everything that Rhonda would normally do, you did because you were taking it over. And your co-host, your twin, the conversation between the two of you was fantastic. I mean, Christy's amazing.
Christy was awesome. And I have to mention the amazing scorekeeper. If you watch the show, there's a scorekeeper that's on there that's hilarious. And Leslie Robb produced the show. She was a stand-in producer for the regular producer. Alex Corey usually produces Rhonda's show. And so, man, I mean, we had Leslie sweating. She was working hard behind the scenes, and people don't get to see that. And they don't see all the prep work that goes in. The scorekeeper had like twins of all kinds of characters and stuff, and there were like two peas in a pod, and there was a lot of twin stuff going on, so you have to watch that and like really lean in, because when you're hosting, you don't get to see everything that the scorekeeper is doing, but the audience does, and so that's always fun to go back and watch that too. But it was super awesome.
I heard the scorekeeper's okay, like decent.
Yeah.
I love when that show is on and they have the grumpy grandpa. That is my favorite scorekeeper that they have. And then one time, I believe Christy actually ended up like subbing in for the scorekeeper one time, and she had like this huge, amazing set with all these Lego pieces and stuff. Did you see Christy's one?
I didn't see her. I know I saw a sub in, but I didn't actually see her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I thought, wasn't that announced? No?
Not that I know of. Until now.
Till now? Well, that's what the grumpy grandpa said. Well,
that's the cool thing is when the regular scorekeeper's not there, you don't know who might be the person behind the scenes. You don't know. You don't know who grumpy grandpa is. You don't know who the scorekeeper is.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you never know.
All right, well, let's go before we reveal any secrets that we're not supposed to reveal. Y'all make sure that you check out Michele Van Dusen on all of her social media platforms. That would be Michelle's cue to start scrolling that at the bottom of the screen, but she doesn't have it there, so that's okay. I'll just tell you, it's Michele Van Dusen. Is it Michele Van Dusen Comedy?
No,
Yeah,
it's just
Michelle's Comedy. It's Michelle with one L. If you've ever listened to this show, you know it's only one L. michellescomedy.com. You can find me at June Colson Comedy or junecolson.com and June Colson Comedy on Facebook. Michelle and I we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. And then of course you can listen to the Laugh Support podcast on all major podcast platforms. And if you would like to watch us and see Michelle's creepy dress in the background or her bird or her mother's ashes in an ashtray, you can always
or
watch
this
that.
red
Creative
spot
Motion
on my
and the big
forehead.
spot that's getting bigger on her forehead. The Creative Motion Network on Roku TV, Vimeo, and of course YouTube. So y'all, that's going to be it for this episode. Definitely check out our next episode, the grand finale of season 2. And then while we're on a break, go back and listen to season 1 and season 2 again, because it's so worth it. It's so worth it. All right, Michelle, I love you, sis. That's going to be it. As I always say, Jesus and Junebug loves you. Michelle, what do you got to say for yourself?
I just want to say thanks for listening. And I'm going to need a sponsor for this red spot on my forehead soon.
We could actually probably, we could put a logo on that. It's getting so big. So let's go before your whole head turns red. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thanks for listening.